Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High-impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Mack Story.
Hello, and thanks for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast today. Or if you're watching on the YouTube channel, on Blue Collar Leadership YouTube channel as part of the Real People Getting Real Results show, thanks for watching there. Welcome to this very special 500th episode of Blue Collar Leadership. 8 years ago, a single conversation with one man planted the seed that grew into this podcast. Today, I'm thrilled to reunite you with my good friend and inspiration behind it all, Derek Brown. Derek is the National Sales Director at Crewplex, where he helps construction, industrial, and high-risk teams communicate safely and effectively in loud, demanding environments. From his own powerful personal growth journey and diverse professional path to his human-first approach to leadership, sales coaching, and team development, Derek brings real-world wisdom straight from the front lines. This milestone conversation is both a look back at how the podcast began and an inspiring look forward at what authentic leadership looks like in blue-collar industries today. If you've ever been impacted by the show, you won't want to miss this one. Welcome to the show, Derek Brown.
Hey, Mac. How's it going, man? Appreciate you having me here.
It's always better when you're around, so I'm happy to have you on, man. The 500th episode. It took you 8 years to get here because I was saving you for 500.
8 years, yeah. I mean, it's been crazy, man. I can't believe 500. Yeah, I remember the first time, you're on your first podcast, you took off with this thing and you ain't stopped, which don't surprise me.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We'll talk about that in just a second because that was really a cool, that whole little experience was pretty cool. And 500 episodes later, I ain't let off the gas yet, although I might be easing up on the gas here kind of soon. Not letting off the gas, but easing off of it because, I mean, I've been hard at it. But I always start these conversations, interviews, whatever you want to call it. I always start it with asking you, how do we actually know each other? You even remember how we came to know each other? It's been longer than 8 years. It was just happened to be 8 years when we started talking about a podcast that day. But how did we meet or whatever? You remember?
I do. You actually gonna be surprised, Mac. But so I was with a friend of mine, and she had handed me this right here. You don't believe I have this, but I still have it.
Wow.
So it's a Chick-fil-A leader cast, May the 10th, 2018. It was when the leader cast, but you and I met in March. So I had seen that you were promoting something, and we got to talking about it. And at the time, I was really big into the leadership and things like that. And I was like, and there was a poster with your information on it, and this had your information on it as well.
Hey, check that date again, Derek. I think that's 2013.
Yeah, 2013. Sorry, what did I say?
I may be wrong. I thought you said 18, but I was doing the math. I was like, we known each other longer than that.
No, you're right. Well, I don't have my glasses on, so that three look like an 8.
Okay, I got you. 2013. Yeah, we go way back.
May 10th, 2013 is when the leader cast was. So you and I met in March of the 2013, because I went back and looked at our email, and our first email together said, "Hey man, it was good to meet you." But anyways, I called
13 years ago.
13 years ago, man. I got this, and so I said, "Well, let me give him a call and see if he'll answer." Because Lisa told me, she said, "Oh, he'll answer. Just call him." I was like, "Really?" And I was like, "Man, this is this big celebrity guy out there speaking and training." He had John Maxwell written all over his stuff. And I was like, that was something that I was like aspiring to be. And so I was like, well, let me give him a call. He probably won't call me back. And I did. I called you and you answered the phone and you said, well, hey, what are you doing in about 20 minutes? And I said, well, we talked for a little while. We connected right off the bat, and he said, well, let's meet up at the Starbucks. We'll get some coffee. And me and you met up at Starbucks a few hours later. And it was it. You had Kaizen Ops going. We talked for a couple hours there at Starbucks, and you even invited me to come and join your Kaizen Op team, and help with the leader cast. And so, man, I was excited. I was stoked. I mean, I think I signed up to be on the John Maxwell team that night.
You joined that too, didn't you? Right?
I did, man. You got me, man. I was hooked.
That's awesome. You remember that. It's awesome you have that card. I don't even have that card. I don't keep up with too many things like that. There's a few things back here on my shelf up at the top, maybe that somebody gave me. That's crazy, man. People may not know what that is. Some people zoom in probably and wonder why has he got a water bottle, an empty plastic water bottle sitting up there.
Yeah.
Make sure that's it. That's a water bottle on the front of it. It says Yale. It's got a Yale sticker where we actually spoke at Yale University back in 2018. So I'm like, I'm keeping that water bottle. That's pretty cool memory there. But man, that's awesome. Yeah, and we connected that day 13 years ago. Same way we talking right now. Don't feel any different, does it?
Same thing, man. Yeah, it's just like, when I met you, I just felt like I've known you my whole life, like you were my brother, yeah, it just changed that. I remember that day changed direction of my life. It really did. And we can talk more about that, but yeah, that was a very, very crucial, important day for me meeting you and then later on getting to meet Rhea.
Yeah, that's awesome, man, and it's cool to hear that. I look forward to hearing some of that story too, and sharing with the listeners, because I mean that's why I have people like you on here. Only people I know, only people who are getting results in life, especially personally, that's looked in the mirror and said, "I need to get better." One of the things Rhea and I always say when we speak is it's a quote from Michael Josephson. He says, "You don't have to be sick to get better," and that's what we invite everybody to get better. Doesn't mean anything's wrong with them. It just means they need to get better. And you and I share a Marine Corps connection too, right?
That's right. Yep. Semper Fi.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Semper Fi,
I think that kind of helped. Yeah, our hair, we still keeping the hairstyle, ain't we? We do.
Yeah, I still keep my military alignment when I got my belt on, my button-up shirt, everything, in alignment like that, and I still tuck my shoelaces in my hiking boots and all that stuff.
Yeah, you still rolling your shirts in your drawer and all that stuff?
No, I don't do all that in the drawer. I just actually I don't. I got an awesome wife, Rhea. She takes care of all that stuff, and she ain't got to do that, and I don't even do that myself. But yeah, do you do that still?
I do a little bit. Whenever I travel, I actually do a lot of traveling. So, I have to have a lot of stuff. Believe it or not, I'm not a lean traveler, man. I had to take a lot of stuff with me because I want to be prepared. I never know what I'm going to be doing.
You want options.
I want options, so I have to roll everything up. And I have it all in my bag ready, so I don't have to think. I get to the hotel, open my bag, and I'm good. I'm ready to go. So I have a routine. I've been doing for a long time.
That's good stuff. So however far back you want to go and whatever you want to share, and we definitely just let the folks know when we get to that point, we're going to talk about what you do professionally now with Crewplex and the headsets and that stuff. And you met some of the folks I know. I know you met Chad Cox, and he knows you coming on the show, so he'll be listening to this, and give him a shout out now. And he's got a couple of episodes that I've interviewed him, so that's cool. But where do you want to start your journey? Do you want to start at the Marine Corps afterward or before?
Yeah, I mean, we can start before. I was thinking that, I knew I was going to get on your podcast, your show with you, and I got to thinking, writing some notes, and I said, I kind of got a core message that I think identifies with me, really throughout my whole life, and it started, for me, my leadership journeys. I say it started, man, when I was 5 years old and started Pee Wee football.
Okay.
All right. And I really do. I look back at it and I'm thinking, man, I can see it now. You can't see it then, and so, I was the littlest guy on the team, I had all these big monsters on the team, and there's, you ever watched a Pee Wee football, and then there's just this one little guy out there.
That was me too.
Yeah, that was me, and I was the only guy out there. My mom and dad, they were really worried about me, so they made me wear a neck brace, and I looked like a character out there, with all them big guys. But I didn't at the time. I didn't know I was. I mean, it didn't matter. I was ready to go out there and hit some heads, hit some helmets, and
yeah, man.
I had no idea, and so I got out there, and even my coach, he he called me the headhunter. He said, "Go out there, Brown, get them. You're a headhunter." And I believed it. I went out there and I was trying to hunt some heads. I thought I was about to go down there and knock somebody over, but they knocked me over is what happened.
They had a little more mass going for them, didn't they?
They did. And it's the funny thing is that when I say my leadership journey started there, is he made me the captain of the football team.
Wow.
And he believed in me. He inspired me, and he gave me an identity at an early age that no matter what anybody else thought I was, he told me that, hey, I could make it happen. And I went out there that day to make some stuff happen. And hey, I struggled. I got knocked over, and but in my mind, my identity, I wasn't the smallest guy on the team. I was out there going to make something happen, and so that journey, that mindset, just carried me through. And I still think about my coach today all the time. I just can hear his voice in my mind, saying things. When I get knocked down, he's like, "Get back up, let's go." Um, but and then that carried me on through life, in high school and in the Marine Corps. Went in the Marine Corps in 2001, right after 9/11. Um, and again, my whole journey, really, I want to just kind of focus on the word identity, because I believe identity has been huge for me, and I think it could really help some people. Because I think a lot of times we lack identity, and that can keep us from getting where we want to be. Right? Would
Yeah,
you agree?
absolutely. Yeah, a lot of people don't know who they are. They don't know who they are or who they want to become, so they kind of just bounce along through life and take whatever life gives them.
Takes them whatever, yeah. And sometimes we get told we're not this or we're not that, or you can't do this and you can't do that. And as a kid growing up, you can believe that stuff. And some people believe it throughout their whole life because they're never told, hey, that doesn't have to be your identity.
Yeah,
I could have went through life, thinking, and I did. Eventually, I got to realizing that, hey, man, everywhere I go, man, I'm just a small guy. I mean, my family, my cousins, my dad, my uncle, they were all just big monster guys. So I was always the smallest guy. If you got a family photo, you'd see all these big guys right around, and then you see me over there.
I do know.
Uh, you've been there and done that. So I knew I wasn't going to physically be able to, um, you know, do anything great with my life physically, but I did. What I realized is, since I can't physically outdo anyone, I'm going to have to outthink people. I'm going to have to outread people, right? I can do
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
And so that's kind of what I've done. And I joined the Marine Corps in 2001. And I've always admired Marines. I looked at their uniforms, and I was just, I remember as a child growing up just thinking, man, I'd like to do that one day. And it was a test for me. Could I do it?
yeah,
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I had a lot of doubt. I was like, man, I'm not sure I could do this. This is stepping out of my comfort zone, right?
yeah, yeah.
I
That's
mean,
interesting because I had that same thing when I went to boot camp. It was more to prove that for me personally that wasn't nothing to Paris Island boot camp. That was kind of my goal, and it didn't seem to be nothing for me. I got a meritorious promotion there, and that was pretty cool. Being 128 pounds, you know what that means.
oh yeah, yeah. I definitely, hey, I was a small guy going in, man. I weighed probably a buck 60 going in Paris Island, and of course you don't get to eat like you want. You don't get to do anything you want to do. And I came out of there about 5
Yeah.
pounds. But I tell you what, I could run further and faster than anybody you knew
Oh
when I
yeah,
got
man.
out of there. But and I learned a lot of leadership traits in the Marine Corps. Just they taught us a lot: honor, courage, commitment. Those words. Those they teach you a lot of things about character. And a lot of folks don't realize this. Marines are not just physically fit, but it's really about mental toughness. Being able to get through things in chaotic moments, be able to stay focused and calm. But I learned a lot in the Marine Corps with that, and it was one of my first challenges as a leader. My drill instructor seen something in me, and again, just like my coach, I think. And again, when I worked at a grocery store, a bagging groceries, my manager seen something in me and promoted me to the head bag boy. Uh, and then the same thing when I got in boot camp, they promoted me to a squad leader, and so here I am in a leadership position.
Yep.
But what I learned quickly is hey, I'm the leader, but why aren't anybody telling why isn't anybody doing what I tell them to do? You know? So I had the title. I had the title, in which, when I was young growing up, I thought, hey, once I get the title, then, hey, people just got to do what I want them to do. But what I learned quick, that's not what it is. Leadership is not uh, just a title. That's the level one leader, like we learn in John Maxwell book, The Five
Yeah.
Levels of Leadership.
Yeah.
And so, that began my journey is like, man, hey, I've got to figure this out because having a title don't mean a whole lot.
Yeah, you're right, man. I don't know why you talking on this. I just want to interject something real quick for any listener who this might be the first show. You may be sharing this with somebody and they listen to it for the first time, but I did episode 496. I don't know if you had a chance to see it or hear it or not, but it was about Colonel Wesley Fox. He spent 43 years in the Marine Corps, went from private to colonel, and I shared a podcast that episode was dedicated to him about the greatest leader he ever had in his Marine Corps career, and it was a corporal. It was I think it was a squad leader in the Korean War. And I ain't gonna tell the
Wow.
story now, but the reason he said that was the best leader he ever had in his 43-year career was because that guy, everybody knew that guy cared about them as people, not just Marines to do a job. He cared about them as people. He bought a camp stove and carried it. He humped it and packed it the whole time, the gas camp stove for them to heat their frozen sea rations back in those days. And instead of having to chisel those frozen sea rations out of a can with a bayonet, he bought that stove and humped it. And Colonel Fox said he'd never seen him use it. As soon as they got where they were going, he took it off and handed it out, and he didn't put it back on his back till they were moving out, and he had never used it. And the other thing was, he said Colonel Fox said he hoped he liked corned beef hash because that was all he got to eat, because he would let the squad pick the food first, and he got whatever was left.
No, that's so true. Being a leader is, it's definitely not a title; it's a choice. Leadership is a choice, and when you make that choice, you want to be a leader. You got to put yourself last. I think John Maxwell says leadership is, influence. The definition of influence, but I heard another definition I love, that it's about inspiring people to become what their potential is.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing is we see potential in others, and we got to figure out how to bring it out of them.
That's right.
I think that's a big piece, and I've learned that in boot camp in the Marine Corps. That I would wake up before everyone, and I would go to sleep after they went to sleep. And I'm making sure I'm squared away, because if I ain't squared away, they're not going to be squared away.
That's right.
Because if they're going to follow me, or if I'm going to develop them as a leader, I've got to show the way. John Maxwell says, leaders know the way, go the way, and show the way.
Yeah.
And but so I, a lot of lessons in that. And I got fired as a squad leader. It wasn't long. They said, hey, he ain't got what it takes. So, but I did get my good dose of good taste of, what it would be to be a leader.
Hey, you did better than me, because it's funny how we got so many little shared stories together just throughout life, not just the Marine Corps stuff we're talking about now, but I wasn't squad leader at boot camp, but as soon as I got to infantry school up at Camp Geiger, with Camp Lejeune area, and I got to infantry school, we all got off. We all showed up wherever we were supposed to be, and everybody just goofing off. There was nobody there yet. There was no platoon sergeant or platoon commander. We were just wherever we were supposed to be. We were outside of this little round metal barracks we were going to be staying in, and just everybody hanging out and acting silly. And I'm trying to get everybody rounded up. Got to get us look squared away, because I know they coming. and as soon as they got there, they just ignored us and they went inside. And I walked inside and asked the sergeant, and he was a platoon sergeant. I didn't know all that at the time. I just knew he was one of the leaders. So I went in there and asked him what he wanted us to do, because I wanted to try to get us squared away, So I said, what you want us to do right now? And he told me whatever that was. And as soon as he walked out there, he made me I can't remember I think it was a squad leader, but it might have been the platoon leader. It was one of them two, probably was the platoon leader, but I think I always referenced it as squad leader. But And I didn't do it before a day or two because of what you said a minute ago. I had to get up earlier than everybody else and go to sleep after everybody else. And at boot camp, we always got 8 hours of sleep. But infantry school, we didn't get 8 hours of sleep. We got whatever they wanted us to have, and it wasn't much a lot of times. And I was like, this ain't for me. I didn't want to lead. I didn't want that extra responsibility you talking about. So I fired myself.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can do that. Like I say, leadership is a choice, and hey, it ain't for everybody, but it does have some rewards. I think if we can see the big picture, see other people grow. You'll be able to help people as you get into the levels of leadership and being able to influence people. It's really reward. It's worth it. It's worth it. If anything else, I can say leadership is worth it. It's hard. It's uncomfortable at times. It's definitely not the easiest job on the planet, but I think everybody's a leader if they want to be. I think we can all do it. I believe if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah.
And I've led Marines in combat. Got out of the Marine Corps, and one of my biggest challenges of leadership would be soon to come. I got married and had a child.
Oh,
I got
yeah.
having got a son now. He's 22, and my daughter's 19 years old. So then leading my family here become you know uh a challenge, right? So I'm trying to lead sales reps out in the field. I'm coming home having to lead my family. And again, you could just throw the title at the trash. You can throw it in the trash because it doesn't mean anything if your character's not right. And people know it. People know
Oh,
whether
yeah.
you're authentic, whether you're real or not. You can't say one thing and do another.
Yep.
And I've heard people say, "Well, do what I say, not what I do." That's rough right there to follow, ain't it?
It is. Yeah. A lot of people try to take that easy out, especially as a parent with the kids. I got that all wrong for sure.
Yeah, but I'm proud of my kids. My son's in the Air Force now, and my daughter, she's a freshman at Auburn University. And man, I could be proud. I'm a proud dad. They're doing so well. So they're very graceful and forgiving. The thing about being a dad, and being a husband, right? You've never done it before. And
Yeah.
there's so you kind of got to figure it out as you go. Um, but it was good, and I got out of the Marine Corps, got married, had a kid, had one on the way. So I'm out of the Marine Corps now. I'm not guaranteed a paycheck. And I get out and I'm thinking the only thing I know how to do is, shoot M16s, 50 cal saws. Did 2 tours in Iraq in the Marine Corps and got out and didn't know. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I
Yeah.
really didn't. I mean, I tried a couple little jobs, construction with some friends of mine, this and that, and just really wasn't paying the bills. Really wasn't. Haven't never at this point. I really haven't ever read a book.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't. I mean, here I am, 24 years old. Just got out of the military.
How old
Got
are
a
you
fan.
today, Derek?
I'm 46 years old, Mac.
Okay, so we going back a while talking about when you was 24. Keep going.
Yeah, 24. And so I got out of the Marine Corps and didn't know what I was going to do, and didn't have any money in the bank. I actually wound up homeless. I
Wow.
was homeless. I had a wife, a kid, and one on the way, and didn't have any income coming in. So I knew something had to change. Uh, I had a few dollars in the bank. I was staying in the basement of a friend of mine's house. And I know he was like, "When are you going to get out of here, man?" But so I went to a yard sale. We went to a yard sale every Saturday, and that's how we bought, clothes for our kids and things, and
Yeah.
50 cent for a shirt and this and that. And I found the book, and it's called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I know
Oh,
you've
yeah.
read it, and I know everybody's probably read it. If you hadn't, it's a great book. And I picked it up. Something inside of me said, "Get that book." I mean, it says "Think and Grow." You need some money here. It says "Think and Grow Rich," but I like the rich version, but I didn't know about the thinking. At this time I had never thought. I
Yeah.
just
You just
so I bought it for $1, believe it or not.
Yeah, man.
And I still have this book, Mac, right here. I bought this book right here for $1, and hey, it's to me, this thing changed my life. It was a beginning. So I bought it for $1. I went home and started reading that thing, and I couldn't put it down.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just read through that thing, and I didn't understand a lot of it. I had when you don't read, at first, I couldn't comprehend what it was saying, so I had to go back. It took me about an hour to read one page.
I do know. I know that too. You know what's funny is I got that same book. That book comes out. A lot of people have printed that book because it's public domain. But I got the same one you got. That same exact cover. I got it back here on the shelf somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing book. Yeah, and I read that book, and the next day, so I read it for a couple of days. I think I bought it on a Saturday morning. Over from Saturday to Sunday night. I had I had went through majority of that book. Again, I probably didn't I know now I didn't understand most of the book, but it did create a fire inside of me.
Yeah.
And it says, you know what? I have limited belief. I didn't believe that I could really be a leader. I didn't believe I could start a business, up until I read this book, and this book proved me wrong. It said, no, you can do it. I mean, um, and so I went out there. I said, well, I'm going to go out here and start a business, and I know I'm going to look crazy, and I know people's going to say, hey, you don't need to do that. That's crazy. Matter of fact, a good family member of mine, I called him, a guy I highly respect, a great leader. But I called him and told him, hey man, that wasn't the only book I bought. I bought some more kind of self-help books and things, because I just needed help. So,
Yeah.
so I bought them all. The guy was selling, old wise man. You tell he was well read. But I bought probably 5 or 6 books that day for probably $2, and he was
Yeah.
probably trying to help me out.
Oh yeah. He did.
Um, and he helped me out. I tell you what, I wish I could shake his hand today. But so I went out the next day, and I said, "What do I like to do?" Because in the book it says anything will work, any idea will work. All we need is one idea.
Yep.
One idea can change your life. So what do you do with an idea? So I took that, and I took this stuff literal. I said, I had a fire under me. I had to do something because I had to feed my family. I've got another child on the way. Man, I was in a mess. And so I went out and I said, well, I love detailing cars. I just
Yeah.
love it. And again, I didn't know at this time I had never sold anything. I'd never went out, talked to anybody about business, or I didn't know what I was doing. It was just completely unfamiliar to me. But I said, I didn't have a choice.
You were
Because
just taking action.
I was taking action. Nobody'd hire me. I still lived in a Marine town, and I couldn't go in and say, well, it's in the Marine Corps, and they'd hire me because they were like, well,
So was
everybody else.
else.
Yeah, so was everybody else. So I had to differentiate myself somehow. Uh, and so I went out and started knocking. I went at the very first door I knocked on. I picked the biggest building in this town. And I just said, I'm going bigger. I'm going home. I mean, I got to make this work. And I knocked on the door, and the owner of the company came to the door, a big real estate firm. I mean, and he sold houses all up and down the coast of North Carolina. And I said, I'm here to speak with the owner of the company. I was bold, wasn't I? Again, I just got through reading Think and Grow Rich. So, when you read that book,
Oh,
you're
you
pretty
fired
bold.
up. You ready
You
to charge
fired up.
charge the hill.
You ready to charge the hill. And I did. I went and charged that hill, and he came down and he said, yeah, man, see that black Escalade out there? He said, I want you to go detail that. It needs a good detailing and all. And I had made up a name, said it. I told him I was Derek Brown with Coastal Mobile Detailing. And, I know how to clean cars really good if you give me a chance. And I cleaned his car. And I think he paid me $50 or something like that. And he said, man, you did a great job. He said, I tell you what, I've got 50 realtors in here. I said, I want you to clean them all.
Wow, that's
So
pretty good. Way back in the 1900s, you're talking about $50.
I know. Yeah, $50 back then when I didn't have a couple of dollars in my name. I was ready to clean whatever he wanted to clean. And so from that moment on, what I learned, is about myself that is I was good with talking with people. I was good with making people comfortable, and I was good at sales and marketing. To grow this company, had to hire some people, train them, learn some leadership development there, trying to lead people to to clean cars and run crews. That was a challenge, but uh, had that for a couple years and grew, sold that business and moved on back to Alabama in 2008, um, and got into medical sales. I had learned enough there and skills and everything. A guy took his chance on me and hired me into the medical sales world, and you know, quickly moved up to the ranks there to be regional sales manager over 3 states. And had a bunch of salespeople under me. Here I am. Again, learning leadership. And I think about this is about the time I think uh, after I had been doing this for a few years when I met you.
Yeah, yeah, I
Uh,
remember you were doing that then.
yeah, yeah. So I met you, Mac, and at the time, I was in the trenches, leading people, and we wound up doing some really good things, man. One, again, I ain't tooting my own horn, but won a lot of awards, uh, for being sales management of the year and all this kind of stuff. Which I think I stuck the award and I don't even know where it's at. I just put it. It's probably still in the box, but I just don't display stuff like that. I've got my college degree in business marketing, and I got another one in psychology. I should hang them up, but they give me that. They give me my diploma, and it's still sitting in there on the shelf. So I did it for myself. Really not to show off anything. I just I was all about investing in myself for a long time.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm the same way, and Rhea is too about those college diplomas, degrees. I don't even know where mine's at. I don't even know if I've ever seen Rhea's. I'm sure she's got them somewhere, but they're not on the wall framed up, and we never had them. As far as I know, I didn't have mine at work or anywhere. Some people do that. Nothing against those folks. It's just another check off, checking a box and go on to the next thing. It ain't like this is going to be my one accomplishment the rest of my life. So I got to make sure everybody knows I did it. It's just like I'm gonna go do something else and do something else. And I know that's what you've been doing, man. You've been growing because you grew a lot after we met, not because of me. You already on a growth path. You just shared that, and I was just another piece of the pie that we came together. And so you said it redirected your life earlier when we met, somewhere around this same time period in your story or something like that. What you want to share some of that now, or you got more of the?
Yeah. No, I think it kind of, so I went through that, been leading people, struggling. I think I did pretty good with what I knew, but, at the time, um, there were some pieces, and I think throughout our leadership journey, we can all say that, leadership is a journey. It's not, it never ends. I mean,
Never end.
it's a craft. I mean, you're trying to figure out, what am I doing? What do I need to grow? We're human, and that's why I focus. When I'm leading salespeople or coaching people, I I really focus on them as a whole, as a human,
Yep.
um, because it's really our character. What it comes down to. Because leading people, you have to lead people different ways. You can't just have one way to lead everyone. You kind of
Yep.
got to meet people where they're at. It's what I've learned. And when you're leading 30, 40 sales reps, you've got to have 30 or 40 styles of leading these people.
Yeah,
But
they're
one
all
thing,
different.
they're all different, but the key to it, they're all watching you and just seeing, is this guy for real? I mean, do I really want to follow this guy? It's what they're saying
Yeah.
in the back of their mind. They're saying, is this guy worth following? And so what they're really judging is our character.
Yep. And
I really,
that's why you got to do so much work on it, because that's your foundation. That's the thing that spreads across 30 different people or 50 different people or 10,000 different people. There, it ain't the competency. You need the competency that they're related to, but what they care about most you as a leader is your character. Which, as a leader, developing your character is your competency. I mean, just like Rhea and I were talking about yesterday, our business character is the competency. You got to do both. I mean, as a leader, you got to do both. And when I say do both, I mean you got to see that your competency is character development, but it's kind of rolls all into one.
right. Yeah, it really does. And this is kind of when I met you. I was doing pretty well as a leader. I had a lot of things I couldn't figure out. I mean, we were doing well with our numbers and things, but um, I knew I could be better. And when I met you, you were really big. I mean, you were really influential on me on, you showed me that, you wrote a book on sales. And I remember when you wrote this book and I
Yeah,
was
who's
like, well,
buying you?
I said, yeah, well, I remember saying, well, he's not a sales guy. What's he doing writing a sales book? And I'm not joking. And I read that book, and man, I was like, it hit me, man, like a ton of bricks. And your book is about, hey, you know, who's buying you? Like you said, are you? Because that's the key. And I've used that, and I've trained that and coached that. You may not know this, but ever since that day I read that book. And actually it's actually helped me increase my team, my sales, because now I'm focused on character development rather than skills. I mean, I
Yeah,
can teach you sales skills, but if you don't have character, if if you're making a lot of sales calls and not closing a lot of them, I guarantee you that most of the reason this calls aren't closing is because of your character.
yeah, 100%. Especially if you got a team of people and everybody else is selling, because that means that the product's not overpriced or something like that. There's not a quality issue or a cost issue or delivery issue. If other people are selling it, that means people are out there willing to buy it. So that's why the subtitle of that book. The title is "Who's Buying You," but the subtitle is "Until You Sell Yourself, You Won't Sell Much." And that's what that book is about. It's interesting to hear you say that. I've had a lot of people say that about that book. Like, who are you to write a sales book? I said, man, I'm a professional buyer. I've been buying my whole life. I know
Yeah.
exactly what kind of salespeople I like. And because I teach leadership, I know why I like those salespeople. And I also know why I don't like the ones I don't like. And so it's the same thing Rhea and I talk about. Leadership, influence, it's the foundation of everything. That's why we write communication books, because the principles of leadership are the same principles that make effective communication. But it ain't about communication, it's about connection. And that's what you were just talking about, right? If that "Who's Buying You" is all about how to connect with the people so that you can make the sale based on your competency and your product. And that's what you were talking about. You were seeing with some of your team, they're not making the connection. They just selling.
Yeah, they're just selling and didn't care. All they were worried about it was a commission check. And what I've learned now. I've been in sales for 25 years. Uh, that's really not selling. A person that's just going out to make a commission, they're not going to last long. They just, if they're going to really grow and into sales and in leadership, character is going to have to be it. I mean, because when you meet someone for the first time, and I started working on one of my books. I've been working on a couple books for a long time. You know this,
Yeah.
Mac.
Yeah.
I'm one. I love to just start a book, and I never publish it because
You like to
uh,
start a book.
I love starting books, man. I've started about 20 books, and I'm gonna finish one of them one day. But I started a book called Contagious Leadership, and I remember talking to you years ago about it. And
That's a good title.
yeah, I never published it, but every time I go back to look at it, get ready to publish it, I read it and think, man, I don't like it. I need to add. I keep having to add to it. You know how it goes when you write,
Yeah.
and you just are never happy with it. But I never released it. But I have. It's helped me. It really helped me. But it talks about contagious leaders. When you meet someone, when you meet another human, the very first 5-10 seconds, our subconscious brain is seeing, hey, can I trust this guy?
Yep.
Is
What's
this
their
guy,
intention?
what's their intention? Is this guy really who he says he is? Does his words and is his actions match up? So we're not consciously thinking that, but our survival as a human, that's what we're thinking. And if we see an ounce, and it's something about humans, we can spot, insincerity.
Yep. Yep.
And,
That's why
and
we
it,
do these podcasts like this, just authentic conversation. Because as soon as you start scripting something, it ain't authentic anymore, and everybody knows it. You can feel it. Like I read your introduction at the beginning. That's the first time I've ever done it. I had never done it, but man, you're gonna be on the 500th episode. I got to tell people who you are, man, right out the gate. So I had to read the script, so to speak, to introduce you properly. But that's why I like authentic conversations, though, because it takes that sword out of everybody's hand. They may not like us for some other reason, but it won't be because we ain't authentic.
Yeah, I was listening to one of your episodes earlier, and you were saying, when you're authentic, you don't need a script.
Yep.
Do you remember saying that in one of your episodes? And it's so true. I mean, when you're who you are, when who you say you are and who you are matches up, you don't have to guess. You just got to be yourself, and it makes it so much easier. And that's who people really want to follow is someone that's that has an identity, has figured out what their identity is, um, and it matches.
Yeah.
So look, as we grow up and get up into leadership, when I went from sales to sales management to regional sales management to now national sales director, you know, and I was a sales coach for a couple years, out doing some coaching, speaking and things like that. You know, as we kind of go up the leadership level, the chain, or we we may feel like a fraud. I'm just going to say this because I know a lot of people that
Yeah.
they have potential, but they may feel like, man, who am I? So, a matter of fact, I've got a book I'm working on now. It's called Who Do You Think You Are?
Yeah.
Right. So we tell ourselves, who do I think I am to be on this podcast with a guy named Mack Story and Rhea Story? In our mind, we replay that. And so a lot of times people never get through that. We stop at, I'm not, their identity. What it is their identity. They just have it, reshape their identity.
Yeah.
So we can choose our identity, whatever we want it to be. We could say, hey, I'm going to step into this big national sales director role, right? And even though I've never done it, but you got to take that idea, and again, we're going to feel like, oh, I don't think I can do this. And matter of fact, a lot of our friends will say, hey, I don't know about that. You don't need to do that, man.
They'll
That's kind of
veto you.
out of your league. Yeah, they'll tell you not to do it. Your family and friends, they'll be the first person to tell you if you're going
Yeah.
to step out and grow that business, or get into a management position. They're going to say, I don't know about that. And how many times have you heard that, Mac?
Yeah. Yeah. I quit hearing. No, I used to hear it a lot till I figured out what you talked about. Then I quit telling everybody what I was going to do and just did it. That way,
Yeah,
nobody can veto it. And what you're saying is just it's very, very powerful because you can decide at any minute I'm going to be somebody, or you can decide I'm going to be nobody. You can do that. People do it all the time, and it's just a very it's a powerful way of being because and it never ends. You think you're a fraud. Sometimes me and Rhea still like that today. Sometimes things will be challenging. I'll be like, am I really good enough to be doing this to actually know my stuff? And then all I have to do, and it is literally what I do to reset, to get that out of my mind. It don't take but a couple seconds. I've
yeah,
trained myself to do it, but it still happens. But what I figure out is the best leaders I know, the highest character leaders I know, those people believe in me tremendously. One of them is Jimmy Collins, former president and COO of Chick-fil-A. He'll be 90 on May 5th. And I'm probably going to go see him this week or next week. I was talking with him or texting with him last week. And, but I mean, that guy's got a high character and he's believed in me and Rhea from all the beginning. And our best clients are always people with a high degree of character, usually business owners. So when they're investing money into people, it's their money. It ain't even corporate money. You can't even get corporate leaders to invest somebody else's money into people. They just don't want to do it. So that's all I have to do is think of the people who value us the most and look at them based on everything that I know and character and all that, and say those people, we're aligned with those people. Those people are attracted to us. Who you are is who you attract. So the masses of other people in the world who don't value this stuff, that think this is a bunch of silly stuff or whatever, it don't matter what they think. They don't know what we know, and they ain't going where we're
right.
going. So it doesn't even matter.
Let's go, baby. Let's go. Hey, I'm about to put a football helmet on and go run. I love it, Mac. I love it. Hey, that's what I love about your leadership style, man. Is you're so you make it so simple for anyone to understand. I mean, it's just so, the way you do it is it's just amazing how you can take something complex and make it simple. That's one of the things I admire about you. Yeah, you're right. When you start changing your identity and say, hey, I want to be a leader. One of the first things, one of the struggles that I had, and we all will have when we decide we want to do better and be better, uh, we want to become better. We got to change friends. I mean, unless they want to go where we're going,
That's right.
But again, one of the things you have to do, and a lot of folks just can't do it, is we have to, find some friends that are where we want to go, and because they're not going to tell us we can't do it. Now, if you
No.
got a friend telling you, I don't think you can do that, man. Well, he made he's still your friend, but maybe it's time to find some new friends. So and that's when I ran into you, man. I told you some things that I was wanting to do that I don't think I'd ever told anybody because I was afraid what they would say. I
Yeah.
knew they would say, "Man, I don't know about that." My uncle told me, "Man,
That's what they
you
all
know,
say.
yeah, but not you, Mac. You told me, "Hey, man, let's do it." I believe. I mean, matter of fact, you told me I could do a lot more than I thought I could do, and heck, you had me signed up for the John Maxwell team, Kaizen Ops. Man, you had me. Hey, at this Chick-fil-A leadership cast you did, you even gave me the mic and told me to introduce this stuff, and I was like, "This guy believes in me, man. More than I believe in me."
I did, and I still do, man. That's why I appreciate you being here on this 500th episode.
Yeah, and that's what we've got to do as a leader. We have to believe in. We've got to see the potential in other people, even though they may not see it yet. So yeah, I mean that's just kind of been, and I love that now. I think every time I meet someone, as a coach, I'm asking them kind of what they're doing, how what do they want to do. Even in my sales approach, it's all about helping people with their dream. If they want, currently doing something and it's not working right, the whole sales approach really is just, hey, what are you currently doing for this, for headsets, right? Well, we're using, or we're not using any, we're just yelling. And then, I'm like, well, do you want to keep yelling or do you want to try something different?
We're
Oh,
yelling, or we're stopping production. I'm sure a lot of them have to stop production so they can go find somebody they need to talk to or hear somebody, right?
that's right. Yeah,
And
they're
what do you
stopping
do,
production.
Derek? I know you touched on it. Say specifically though what it is you do and offers.
Yeah, so Crewplex, we're a parent company off of CoachCom. CoachCom is does 99% of D1 college football headsets, been in business for 30 years. So when you see Saban throw that headset on the ground, that's our company, CoachCom. But they backed into this business about 7 years ago, in the industrial commercial world, the contractors, the blue collar world, really the same principle applies. They're working around it, all this loud equipment and the critical missions too. I mean, you got dangerous situations they're in, and right now what they're a lot of them are doing, they're just yelling, or like you said, they're having to stop production so they can communicate. And so what our headsets allows them to do is, each one of them puts on a headset. You can wear them under the hard hat or with no hard hat. We have different options for that, but it allows them all to communicate full duplex, just like you and I are talking right now.
Yeah.
And it'll push out all the loud noise. So when you put these headsets on, all that noise is gone, and you're just talking.
Like noise suppression. So not only can you hear, but you can understand. That's a key point. A lot of times the yelling, you might hear them, but you still don't understand them, or you
Yeah,
might
yeah,
misunderstand. That's even worse.
that's right. And again, the walkie talkies are good for some applications, but when you need to be hands free, and when seconds count, if or someone could get hurt, or something could happen. You need a full duplex. When I say full duplex, that means you can talk and listen all at the same time.
Yeah,
And so
just
you
like
can
we're
have
doing right here.
just like we're doing right now. Say you're out there and you got some loud equipment going on and you're working. Uh, they're just talking just like you and I are right now. So that's what we do, and
Yep,
I love it because I get to help a lot of folks.
yeah, and you said it's. I don't know if it's exactly like your headset, but the story you told me, you got your microphone sticking out there. So when you don't want to be heard, you just flip your microphone up. It basically stops you from being heard.
That's right. Yeah, you can mute the mic. There's a lot of different things you can do, but the main thing is they can communicate without having to grab a walkie-talkie and put it back, and push a
Yeah,
button. So you
especially if
don't
you're
have to.
operating equipment, you don't have to even stop. You using both feet and both hands. And I know we talked about Chad Cox, and I know a lot of times he's in the excavator, and I'm sure he's using all his limbs.
He
So
is, yeah. Matter of fact, I met with Chad last week, and he just bought a bunch of headsets for us for his team. He does the horizontal boring. And so, his guys are out there, and, you got guys in the hole, guys up here on the top,
Yep.
some guys over here, and they all need to communicate, you know. And so, if you don't have these, a lot of companies are currently doing is yelling.
Yeah.
And so they put a set of these on each guy, and they're just talking, just like
Yeah.
you, and don't have to yell.
I could imagine someone who's not using those, if you went out and gave them to them to use for a day, the team ain't gonna want them to go away tomorrow. If the both sides they don't want to buy them, the team gonna want them to buy them. I bet you, because I could put myself in that position 100 times throughout my career, and no, I'd rather have those on my head. If a lot of times, I mean, all over the place, all type
Yeah.
of applications.
Yeah, and that's what we do. We go out and we'll do a live demo with these companies. We'll go out and do a free live demo, show them how it works. Once they spend an hour with these headsets on, they say we
They don't
gotta
want to go
have.
back.
They say we gotta have these, man. We've been able to do more in an hour than we're usually doing 4 hours because, again, we don't have to stop. Production.
Yeah, man,
But
that's
yeah,
good stuff. So people can they can text you to that number Ria's been putting up if they want to talk to you about actually anything. I think you said at the beginning off mic that you happy that anybody wants to chat with you about life or coaching, personal coaching, but also your professional life with Crewplex. If they want a free demo or something like that, want to talk to you about that, they can text you that number and end up getting on a call with you or something like that.
that's right. Yeah, just text or call me if you want to talk. Again, about just life, or you want to, you're running a crew, in a loud environment out in the field or in a manufacturing plant. You maybe have touring. If you want a free demo, I'd be glad to come out. If I do a little bit of coaching still every now and then. I do some keynote speaking as well for companies. So yeah, just it doesn't matter if you just want to talk about the game. You can call me. Hey, feel free to. I'm just like Mac. I'm just a phone call away. I'm open, willing to talk to anybody.
Awesome. So for the folks listening, you don't see Derek's number, but I hope you go to the Blue Collar Leadership YouTube channel and actually watch this episode. It's cooler when you're watching people talk. It's kind of like, it's just different. You have a different level of connection, but make sure you know Derek's phone number. You can text him, call him. He prefers a text first and then get the call set up. But 334-275-5340. And we also talked about Who's Buying You earlier, that sales book. And if you're listening, you didn't see it on the screen, but you can go to bluecollarleadership.com/download, and you can actually read the first 5 chapters of that book and get a feel for it and see the outline of the other chapters and also a lot of other books. So I hope you do that. But we saved the story for last, Derek. So I appreciate you sharing about what you're doing now. But how did this podcast? What caused me to start this podcast? We've made everybody wait all the way to the end. I hope they hear it because it's a pretty cool story. But you started a podcast or something.
I did. I had started a podcast, 8 years ago or 9 years ago, and it was called Encouragement for Life. And basically, I would just have every day, 5 minutes a day in the morning, I kind of get 5 minutes of encouragement for people. And I did it for a while. And I was telling Mac about it. I went over, was excited about it, said, hey, check this out, Mac. And he was like, well, how do you do that? And
I
how
ain't
do you
got
do
time,
that?
too much trouble, all that stuff.
He was like, well, I don't got time for all that and this and that. But he tried. He said, well, I'm going to try it. He did one. And here we are 500 episodes later. You've just kept this thing going, man. And it's amazing.
Yeah, you actually came over and did a podcast with me and interviewed me.
Your
if I
podcast
recall.
a lot of the time.
Yeah, you actually came over.
I did. Yep.
And did that podcast with me because you was trying to tell me how simple it was, and I wasn't buying in. Right? You said, "Well, I'm gonna come over and do one with you, and you can watch me when I do it." And it was so simple. And back then it was Anchor.fm was the site or the platform or the app or whatever they call it, and then Spotify's bought them since then. But it was free. It was super simple, and you still can do it for free, and it's still super simple. And but you showed me how to do it. I think it was either that night or the very next night I had episode 1, and then I did one every day for like maybe 30 days. And then I started doing a couple a week, and I was trying to just get some content out in case somebody started listening, they'd have some content and not have to wait forever. And eventually I started doing one a week. That's why, 8 times 52, we'd be around a little over 400 episodes, but I've actually got 500 because of the way I started it out in the beginning. And they were short too, like yours in the beginning, 5-8 minutes or something like that. And then they got a little longer. And most of the time now they're about 30 minutes, most episodes. And these interviews, they usually run around an hour. Some of them go over and some a little under. But whenever I have guests on, if people don't want to listen, guess what they can do? If they want 10 minutes, they can listen 10 minutes and stop listening. That's how easy it is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't worry about the length.
Yeah, no, I think the people that want to grow and want to listen, I know me when I got to reading books and learning and growing, man, you couldn't keep a book out of my hand. I was, man, I mean, I was reading so many books, for about 15 years. I went through a book a day. I'm telling you, it was just, when I learned, man, hey, you know, this is what successful people do.
Yeah.
And again, I encourage, anyone listening that, maybe you don't like to read. And again, I didn't like to read. I just really, really didn't like to read. But I knew that, I had to get better. And I knew there were some things I didn't know. And, the more I read, the better I got. Um, and now you can't keep a book out of my hand still. I mean, I don't read like I used to. I still read a little bit every day, but there for about 15 years, man. I mean, I just was, you know, readers are leaders. I mean, it's just the way it is. I don't think there's any way around that. Um, but yeah, I'll say one more. I know we're gonna heading out of time. I just wanted to kind of say one more thing, and close. But um, my main message really is about our identity, and be careful, what we believe about ourselves, because we will become what we believe about ourselves. So we can. The great thing is we can change what we believe about ourselves. It doesn't have to be the same. Change is easy. You can, matter of fact, you can change and right now. But a lot of people say, "Well, I'll change next year." Let's then well, and again, this is could be another episode down the road, Mac. But I was an alcoholic. And again, I hadn't gotten told a lot of people this, but I was an alcoholic for years.
Yeah.
And I always, I used to always say, "Hey, I'll change. I'm going to quit drinking when I get 30." And well, 30 came around. I said, "Well, I'm doing pretty good, but I wasn't. But I was telling myself I was. And I said, "Well, I'll wait. When my daughter gets 5 years old, I'm going to quit." And she got 5 years old, and I didn't quit. And next thing you know, and so again, I could have quit then, I could have changed then, but I didn't. So it took me a little longer. Sometimes it takes us longer to figure it out.
Yeah.
But I did quit drinking. And sober now, happier. I wish I'd have quit longer before, but sometimes it takes some of us longer than others to
Yeah.
figure
I'm
things
proud of you,
out. But
man.
yeah, man. So I ain't stopped now. It's been the best decision I ever made in my life. And but yeah, we can change. We can change. And you wrote
Any
a book
moment.
on that. Change happens, right? You wrote a book on that. It
Yeah, Rhea
doesn't.
and I wrote a book on that, and they can read it at that same spot, bluecollarleadership.com/download. They can preview about the first 5 chapters from Change Happens. But what you're talking about, man, I don't know if you know or knew of him. You might have probably Bob Chapman. He was the CEO of Barry Waymiller. He passed away just a few weeks ago, and I did episode 498. 498. By the time this comes out, that one will be out. As we recorded, it comes out next week. But so for you, it ain't out yet, Derek, but it'll be out Friday. But for
Okay.
the listeners, it's episode 498. It's already out, and I basically dedicated that tribute to him. I did about 45 minutes. I shared 50 quotes from Bob, and one of the ones I always love and talk about. I think it's in the sales book too, or it's maybe even on the back cover. I can't remember, but he talks about at any moment in life we can press the reset button. And that's what you're talking about. You've done that a bunch of times, and just like me with this podcast, and with you with a lot of stories you've already shared. And I mentioned it for you specifically. I mean, you took action. I remember when you was talking about going to start your business, you took action, and that's what separates people like me and you and Rhea and any other go getters is we come across something good like you read Think and Grow Rich, and you took action. You come over and talked to me that day about a podcast. I took action. Somebody told me how to publish your own book. I took action on that book. That's why we got a lot of books. I didn't do it till I was ready, but as soon as I was ready, I remembered that guy told me how to go self-publish a book, and I went and jumped on it. And anybody can do that. Press that reset button. And Napoleon Hill, you talked about him with Think and Grow Rich. That is a great book. I've read a bunch of books from him. He's got some good stuff. Have you personally ever listened or read Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill?
I have, yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that book. Matter of fact, I'm with the empowerment mentoring team with Paul Martinelli now, and so I went on the road teaching Think and Grow Rich for a couple years. As a man thinketh, Think and Grow Rich. But yeah, the Outwitting the Devil, that's a great book too, with Napoleon Hill. I mean, it's just, if you haven't read, if you want to read one, I'd say get started with these couple books. I mean, they'll set you on fire, and you can't put it out.
Yeah, Outwitting the Devil's good, man. The audio's good because he talks, his own voice, and then he talks like the devil, which he wrote both pieces actually in the book or whatever, but he's got a different voice talking the devil piece in there. And this old book, these books Derek and I are talking about now, they're 100 years old. These books were published 100 years ago, but that's what's good about leadership principles. They're timeless. They've been around since the beginning of time. They're going to stay around to the end of time, and they apply to all people. The practice, the story you hear may be different, but the principle is always the same. And that's why you were talking about leading people, 30 different people. You got to do it differently, but there's still the principle of how you do it is literally the same. The practice of how you do it is different. It depends. What does this person value? Seek first to understand. If you got 30 different people, seeking first to understand is the principle, but what you're actually going to understand is kind of the practice, who they are, what they're telling. Then you got to know all these principles so that you can pull the right tool out of your toolbox to actually work effectively with these people. It's just kind of like a math equation, or better, the words I use or the definition I use is like the alphabet. You got 26 letters, but look what you can do with them. And you make all these different words, and they have all these different meanings. And that's the same way leadership works. But most people don't know that because they don't know enough about leadership to understand it.
Yeah, and leadership is a study. I mean, if you become a leader, if you are a leader, it's an everyday thing. It's leadership journey. It's a journey. And because what we're trying to do ultimately is create more leaders. I think every leader's ultimate goal is to create more leaders, right? Instead of, I'm reading a book now called "Turn This Ship Around."
Oh yeah,
you read that one? And
that's a good book.
Whoo, that's a good one. And he says he adopted, instead of the leader follower, he's a leader. He believes in leader.
Yep.
So he didn't want leader followers. He said, I want leaders. And so he basically gives people ownership and helps them, coaches them, and guides them. But he's developing leaders.
We don't want to, and that's what I do with blue collar leadership.
You do.
Blue collar leadership, leading from the front lines, is helping the entry level worker learn how to be a leader, and helping the leader do exactly what you just said. See them as leaders. Everybody is a leader. They're leading at different levels. They got different responsibilities, but just like you did in your life, you took ownership, and that's what leadership's about. First of all, I got to take ownership and responsibility of my life. But that book, man, I talk about that book whenever I hear those old military guys out there who really don't know how to lead, but they thought they knew how to lead because they had the Uniform Code of Military Justice backing them up. The UCMJ was backing them up in the military and making them look better than they were because they had to lead a certain way or they'd get in trouble. The people had to follow a certain way or they'd get in trouble. So that's an artificial type leadership. I call that artificial influence. And then they get out into the real world with the civilian world, and they don't have all that backup. They either can lead or either they can't lead. And a lot of those people, they'll start saying, we just need more command and control. We need to make these people follow. And the reason they say that is that's all they got. They ain't got nothing else. Doesn't mean they're bad people. Our veterans are highly, highly valuable, but they're much more valuable if they know how to lead than if they don't know how to lead. I mean, I've had to interact, Derek. I ain't saying names. I don't even remember the names, but I've interacted with some high up officers who retired from the military during my leadership time, and most of them are pathetic leaders. I mean, we went to speak one time with, I forget what this guy, maybe was a colonel or something, and in the Air Force and retired, and we were speaking where he invited us to speak where he was speaking or something, and we were there, and he got there and he's late and he starts late and he goes over and all this poor character stuff. I mean, it just, that ain't what I see when I see a military officer, but that's who he was naturally out in the civilian world. He wouldn't have been that guy in the military because he'd kind of forced to be on time or he'd get in trouble and show respect and demonstrate respect. All these, what the military really does is forces leadership onto everybody because it works. But the most effective leaders are those that get it naturally within that environment. Like Colonel Fox was talking about, that squad leader. And that's what we saw, and it's just powerful. But man, I really appreciate you being on. You got anything you hadn't shared or I didn't ask you about?
No, man, I think, you and I could probably go on and talk for 8 hours at a time. I know me and you, Mac, but I just appreciate you and Rhea having me on here, man. It's, you guys are some of the best people I know. And I'm not just saying that. I'm truly, every time I see y'all, I leave better. I leave inspired, man. I leave ready to. You tell me all the time, make it happen, or somebody else will, and you really mean it, Mac. If you just logging on to this podcast, you don't know Mac, hey, text him, give him a call, man. He's one of the greatest guys out there. He really does believe in people, and I've seen it over 13 years now. I don't think there's ever a time I've called you, Mac, and you hadn't answered the phone, and you'd sit there. You'd be willing to spend an hour with me on the phone if you want. I called you a few months ago and said, "Hey, Mac, what are you up to?" Yeah, nothing much. He said, I said, "Well, let's go grab some lunch," and he said, "I'll drive down to you."
Yeah, it's kind of 2-hour round trip. We met for 2 or 3 hours, didn't we?
We did, man. And so that's kind of what you get. He's the real deal. If you're wondering, he is the real deal, and Rhea's the real deal. This is not some fluff here. It's he believes in your potential, and I do too. And hey, I would end with this: don't negotiate with your potential. Most of us die, and somebody told me this years ago. Is, man, I don't want to die and realize that I only use 1/10 of my potential, man. And a lot of us are. So do whatever you do. Don't negotiate with your potential because we can become more, right?
Absolutely, man. I'm proud of you, and maybe we'll have you back on for the 750 or the 1000th episode. I don't know. It may take me a while to get to that one because I'm probably going to slack off some. I've been threatening for a year or two of doing twice a month or every now and then, whatever I want to, but I've still been doing them every week because I like doing it. So yeah, I don't know. I'm mourning everybody. Sometimes I might go back down instead of one every week, a couple of months or once a month, something like that. But I appreciate, man, you being on here and
thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing and just spinning off of some of the things you said. If if somebody comes to you, especially a child like my son Eric, anybody listening knows my relationship with him was non-existent from 15 to 19, but he's about to be 30, 35, and since 19 we've been reconnected. He come not long ago. He was starting a high-end patio cover business in around the Auburn area in Alabama, East Alabama, and he started that business. And just like you said, I didn't veto nothing. I'd make it happen, man. You can do it because I know he can do it. Just like you, I know you can do it. You can always do more, especially somebody like you. Whatever you're doing now, you're just scratching the surface, and that's the way we have to see it. We have to look in the mirror and say, we can't look and say, how do I compare to everybody else? Because it's easy to find a lot of people that we are doing far better than. Then we can just say, well, we're doing great. But you could also look at the people who are doing much better than us and saying, man, we ain't doing nothing. But what we really need to do is look in the mirror and say, if I actually got serious and I actually got in gear, what would I be doing and where would I be at and what level would I be doing it at, and compare myself with the person that I could be if I actually hit that reset button. You talked about hitting it on the alcohol. I did that too in 2012. I ain't drank since 2012, and I ain't had a headache from alcohol since 2012. I was telling somebody the other day, we were speaking in Texas, and I was sharing that story, and I said, I ain't judging you guys. You do whatever you want, but I can tell you, I ain't had a headache from alcohol. I ain't wasted any money on alcohol. I ain't had to go out and check my truck in the morning and see if I run into something the night before or backed into something or something stupid. Or I mean, way back my drinking days, man, I remember going out the next morning and down the side of the car because I was a passenger in the car and Rhea was driving. I done throw it up all out the side of the car, man. That's who I used to be at one point.
Oh, yeah.
On a weekend night. I didn't even know I had done that. And then she said, "Oh yeah, you did it at a red light in Auburn." And there was a policeman right beside us.
Yeah.
So,
I could tell you hundreds of stories just like that, Mac. And I tell you, I'm not proud of, but it's for me, this is a better way to live. And again, I don't judge anybody that likes to drink, if it helps them cope. But, for me, my life's got a lot better since I quit. Yeah, I can tell you that. Like you said, I do remember what I did last night, today, and, last year and 2 years before that,
that's nice,
that's a nice way to live, man. I don't have to wonder anymore.
Yep.
Have I heard a relation? Did I say something I shouldn't have said? And again, it's nice to wake up not having a headache for sure.
Yeah, I had a lot of those, man. Or sometimes I woke up feeling good, but I look at my wallet on my credit card balance, and then I had a headache from that.
Ooh, I'm telling you what, man. Yeah, you could stack some money up.
Yep. For the folks listening, though, right here, what we just did, this last few minutes, that's leadership. That's being authentic, right? That's being vulnerable, being humble, sharing who you are. But that only matters. Derek's a couple years into his journey. If he's a couple of days, it don't mean so much. He tells you he quit drinking because a couple of days ain't much under the bridge, right? But a couple of years is. You've got some gaps. So the farther you get away from that past, and I'm sharing this because anybody who's got a past, it may not be drinking alcohol, maybe something else. But as soon as you hit that reset button and you start getting away from that stuff, those stories actually become valuable. Especially, they become motivational and inspirational. They're usually not doing anybody any good when you're still doing it. You tell somebody about it, but the farther you get away, then it gives them hope. Hey, Matt can do that. I can do that. Derek can do that. I can do that. And we're just a couple of millions of people who've changed their life for the better and hit reset. So that's identity, man. That's a good thing. And I'll just leave a quote right here before we drop off from Les Brown. I know you've heard it, and he's, it depends on what it is, but we're talking about people who don't have a good opinion of you. But he says someone else's opinion of you is none of your business. That's just the truth. We ought not be worried about all those folks. So anybody out there listening,
and they're not thinking about us either. They're not even thinking. They're not even thinking about us, are they?
No.
The truth is, they're not thinking about us.
They don't even care. They think about themselves, right?
That's right.
They looking in the mirror. And a lot of times those people giving you opinion, their opinion ain't worth much. That's one reason that we ought not be worried about it, because where's it coming from?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Pay attention who you're paying attention to, for sure.
Yep. So we talked a lot about leadership on this episode. I'm about to wrap it up. I do want to tell the podcast listeners, Rhea's been scrolling a link. If you want to learn what type of leader you may be or what type of leader you might be reporting to, we've got a free 2-hour online course. It's called the 5 Types of Leaders. You can check it out at the5typesofleaders.com. The number 5, if you're not watching on video and you're just listening, the5typesofleaders.com. There's 8 15-minute videos there. There's an 8-page downloadable workbook, fill in the blank type content. And then if you watch every video all the way through at the end, you'll get a certificate of completion, and stick that in your resume. Go give it to the HR manager, give it to the boss, let them know you hungry, you climbing, you invested in yourself, you developing yourself, and check out some of the books Derek mentioned. Go to the bluecollarleadership.com/download page. Check out some of those previews. You ain't got to buy the book. If you like it, buy the book, and then add that to your resume. Let people know. Make a list of the books that you've been reading. Make yourself stand out when you go to get a job. And I think I got some episodes somewhere around podcast episode 26, 7, 8, somewhere 26, 27, 28, where I talk about things that'll help you get a job. If you're in that space, go check out those episodes. You'll get some tips out of there. Well, all right, Derek, I'm about to wrap it up, man. I really appreciate you being the guest on the 500th episode. I'm glad I came up with that. I think that was just a good idea me or Rhea had to get you on here for 500th episode. It might have been me and you at lunch that day at Chick-fil-A where I come up with that. I can't even remember.
Yeah, Chick-fil-A. I guess you had thought about it, or you and Rhea talked about it on the way, and you said, it's funny that you called me, because we hadn't talked in months before then. Yeah. I called you out of the blue one day. You came to my mind and you said, it's funny you call me now because my 500 episode is it's just a few months away. And so you asked me what I do, and I said, oh, 100%.
Yeah, man.
But thank you for having me, man. It's been awesome.
Yeah, man. And I had you in my pocket waiting. As soon as been holding out for these couple of months because I had about 8 episodes to record when we talked, but we're there now. This will be coming out.
I hope I didn't run anybody off.
No, man. I hope somebody calls you and talks to you, man. I know you got a lot of story and connection. People in sales. You want some sales tips. Yeah. You want to sell more, make more money from somebody who values character in the way that you sell. Reach out to Derek. If you're looking for those, if you got a crew, man, they're working in a loud place, or maybe it ain't loud. Maybe they're just at a distance, and the distance is too far to be able to hear. But maybe it's not loud. There's a lot of ways. Derek's stuff. What is the website, Derek, for Crewplex?
Yeah, it's crewplex.com.
CREWPLEX.com.
That's right. Yeah, crewplex.com. You can log on there. You can kind of go through some of our products, but feel free to reach out to me. If you want me to come out, just talk to you on the phone to see if it may be a good fit. It may not be, but if we can help, we'd be glad to.
And you're in Opelika, Auburn, Alabama area, but you're nationwide, right?
I'm nationwide. Yeah, I live here in Opelika area. Our corporate office is in Auburn, but I travel the country. I'm in a different state every week, so it doesn't matter where you're at. I'll come to you.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool right there. So Auburn, Opelika, Alabama area, in case you don't know. People listen to this podcast all around the world, so you ain't worldwide, though, right? Nationwide.
Well, our Crewplex division's not worldwide. We have a client division that is worldwide. So depending on where they're out in the world, we maybe can help them. So we're all about solutions and helping people. So if I can't help them, I'll give them a direction where somebody can.
Outstanding. So that's just another reason I was glad to have Derek on here, because I know I love Derek, and we've been friends a while. I like him. First of all, remember, who's buying you? I buy into Derek. But I also like his product because I know a lot of my client base, the blue collar folks in all kind of blue collar industries, can benefit from your products, especially if they don't have one at all. They definitely need to reach out to you. And there's a lot of people that don't have one at all. All right, we're gonna wrap up this 500th episode and talk to you next time.
All right, thank you.
Make it happen, or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mack Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mack's books, programs, special offers, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.